Well, presidents have admitted to smoking it, but one has never come out and said marijuana is as safe as drinking.
That's until President Obama sat down with a reporter from New Yorker magazine recently. During a wide-ranging interview, he dropped that bombshell saying, and I quote, "As has been well documented, I smoked pot as a kid, and I view it as a bad habit and a vice, not very different from the cigarettes I smoked as a young person up through a big chunk of my adult life, but I don't think it is more dangerous than alcohol."
And with reaction to that is Jules Olsman. He's an attorney, and he's on the advisory board of the Tri-County Community Coalition, which fights drug abuse in Berkeley, Huntington Woods, and Oak Park. He thinks the president couldn't be more wrong.
And next to him, Thomas Levine. He's a lawyer who represents those he says are being oppressed by the war on drugs. A cannabis counselor, if you would. All right, Jules, let's start with you. What's worse, pot or alcohol?
Well, I don't think anyone really knows the answer to that question, and that's the problem with what the president said.
He's wrong then.
Well, he certainly isn't right. And there's nothing to back up his statement other than if he's referring to himself, then he can say, well, in my case, I didn't find it to be worse or one better or one worse. But if you're looking for scientific evidence to back up his statement, it would be sorely lacking.
Now, he's a politician, not a scientist. But what does it say when the President of the United States talks about pot in the Oval Office?
Well, I think it reflects a national mood. I think beginning with the medical marijuana situation in Michigan, the approval by the voters of that initiative, Colorado, other states, I think it clearly reflects a trend. It reflects a change in the national thinking, no question about it. But when you're talking about young people, high school students, junior high school students, and you're the president, and I like the president, I support the president, I just don't think that that was a very good thing for him to say.
Well, Tom, some people think that maybe perhaps that they're overreacting about what the president said. I mean, some studies have been done on marijuana, and some say, hey, it's just not as dangerous as perhaps the effects of alcohol.
That's right. There's been 120 clinical trials on marijuana. 1/3 of the pharmaceuticals currently being approved are being approved with much less than that. 6,500 people have been involved in these clinical trials, much less than what these pharmaceuticals are being approved under the FDA. And those pills kill you. Those drugs, you take too many, they kill you. They have all sorts of side effects. I don't know why we're not up in arms over pharmaceuticals killing us.
You know, some say, hey, you can't OD from too much marijuana, but the big fear is that it might be a gateway drug, that smoking pot may lead to more harsh narcotics.
I think it's more of an anti-drug, and alcohol is more of a gateway drug. The mayor of Toronto and another official had indicated every time they had done these hard drugs.
That's not going to help your cause, Tom.
No, what I'm saying is they said every time they've used the hard drugs, they've been drunk when they've done it. When you're drunk, you do stupid stuff. You go home and beat your wife. You don't see that with marijuana. It's a benign solution.
So if I understand you, the president doesn't have the stats, Jules Olsman doesn't have the stats, but you're saying that marijuana is not as dangerous as alcohol?
Yes. Yes.
All right. Let's look at it. There's a University of Washington study from 2012 that says that up to 45% of high school seniors have used medical marijuana. Of that number, it was like about half of that had used it within the last 30 days. Okay.
So what's wrong with that?
Well, I don't know. What's the effect of
How many of those kids graduated?
Charlie, what's the effect of marijuana on memory? Depression, psychiatric conditions, a whole list of things. Nobody knows the answer to that. So it's, and again, we're talking about two different issues. You're talking about criminalization and you're talking about scientific evidence. I don't think it's a wise thing to tell high school students, young people, oh, this is safer or this is better. I think education, which is what our group is all about, is the key. Certainly in the years to come, there's going to be better studies done, better control groups, but right now it ain't there.
Well, isn't it half the problem is it's not legalized, so people aren't investing the money into these long-term studies in order to find out.
Well, not only that, when you survey people about something that's illegal, you'd have to be a little dubious about the fact, about the answers you're getting to the questions. When was the last time you used marijuana? Well, who's listening? Who's going to find out about it?
That's called paranoia.
Right, it is.
Paranoia.
Well, realistic paranoia.
But but we're seeing more and more popularity, where the polls are being done, more local communities voting it as trying to legalize it.
People our age who don't want to be, who don't like the criminalization, don't think people should be arrested. When the medical marijuana business started, there were communities that advocated arresting people to test the law. You can't ruin people's lives.
I think this could be a campaign issue. Tom, is there any movement right now to force the people running for Congress, because there is a bill in Congress right now, it hasn't gone anywhere in the year that it's been there, but don't you think this should be a campaign issue? I mean, shouldn't Gary Peters and Terry Lynn Land, for example, running for the United States Senate, weigh in on this issue?
Absolutely.
Are you going to force them to do that?
Yes, we are, and we want a litmus test. Who is really the prohibitionist? We want to know. Come voting time, they're not going to get our vote.
Do you have the votes, though? Is this an issue that's really resonating? I mean, could the president have used this as a campaign issue to lure young people into the Democratic Party?
Absolutely. People don't understand running for office. They think it's still political suicide. This is an idea that is a majority of Americans are in favor now.
Well, yes, and we will be talking more about this coming up in the next segment. But also a big issue right now, whether children should be taking medicinal marijuana.
Yeah, let's take this one step further. Coming up, medical marijuana for kids. Should children, young kids, I'm talking 10, 11 years old, should they be taking the medical marijuana drug? That's coming up next on Let It Rip Weekend. Is the president right? Smoking pot's okay?
Not in my opinion.
Why not?
Because it's a drug. That's my opinion. It's not okay.
Alcohol kills hundreds, thousands a year, right? I don't know a single case where pot's killed someone.
There is not enough data yet on smoking pot, what it does.
People should be allowed to smoke weed before they can drink liquor because it's grown naturally.
I think it's the same thing.
All right, those are some of the responses I got when I took the marijuana question on the road at the auto show.
Yeah, we're back with attorneys Jules Olsman and Thomas Levine talking pot. And this week, Fox 2's Eric Erickson also had an interesting story about some local moms who are giving their kids medical marijuana, legal for adults, but it's a gray area for minors. But we saw that it was actually lessening the effects of some of the symptoms, the seizures, and some really helping these kids. Should they take this marijuana? Do we know it's even going to be safe for them?
Absolutely, yes. And sometimes it's the only solution for these children. Under the Michigan Medical Marijuana Act, 2 physicians would have to certify it, and their parent would have to be the caregiver. So those are some safeguards that help the context. And I think you can't deny these parents and these children the medicine that works best.
But Jules, we don't even really know the impact it might have on their developing brains or
no, that's
growth,
one.
right?
That's one of the major areas of concern. But I agree with him. Look, if you have 2 pediatricians or pediatric neurologists who have a child that has a seizure disorder, if that's it, hypothetically, and they say, well, we think that child would benefit from the use of medical marijuana or an out-of-control pain situation or something like that, that's a medical situation. That's a very different thing than advocating to young people generally, oh, this is fine. Next time you have a headache, smoke a joint. That doesn't make it.
You're a lawyer. You can get a doctor. You can find a doctor anywhere in this world that'll say anything you want, pretty much. Even a pediatric neurologist or something that would say, yeah, smoking pot for the 11-year-old's okay.
I don't buy that. Doctors are professionals. They would stand to lose their license. There's enough controls in place. Doctors do the right thing. They're the gatekeepers of our healthcare system. I mean, before we can go get cut up, a doctor has to approve it, or to take any other medicine. We have to trust them. They're the gatekeepers.
Jules, do you trust doctors to give a medical marijuana to a 10, 11-year-old?
I agree with your statement about the way the medical marijuana business has unfolded somewhat. There does seem to be a belief that there are some doctors who are easier to get a certificate from than from others. But
you do medical malpractice. You know exactly about that.
I do, but I also believe that when you're talking about a parent-child relationship, talking about a medical situation involving a child, that's far different than talking about the use of the drug in a recreational circumstance. So there are controls there, and like I said, it's not to say I wouldn't trust. I would say that a physician, like he says, a physician who's going to authorize that is giving serious thought as to what the consequences would be, and I don't believe would do that under trivial circumstances.
Thomas, let's talk about this. There's a lot of big argument right now. Legalize this pot and then tax the heck out of it. We could use the money for perhaps these studies or pot for potholes. We've heard that, paying for the roads. One lawmaker is saying that. Would you be in favor of doing this and taxing it?
Absolutely. Prohibition is not keeping it out of the hands of our children. Regulation will. Once these stores, these dispensaries or provisioning centers are licensed, they're not going to risk that license by selling to minors. It's the black market.
And Joe, we only have just a moment left there, real quick. If we legalize pot, don't you think that the police would be freer to do other things? We'd free up a lot of that valuable municipal money that we need?
Sure, that's their attitude anyway. Most law enforcement folks don't think that arresting people for marijuana use is a good idea at all.
All right. Thank you, Jules Olsman, Tom Levine. The debate continues. Senator Papa George, if Jefferson can get away with calling Adams a
hermaphrodite?
Yeah, hermaphrodite, that's right. The lies politicians today, oh my gosh. See you next time.
I'm Fox 2's Jennifer.